Well, good evening. This is PJ Net. It's 9 p.m. East Coast time. If you're watching this live, it's 9 p.m. Thursday, 21st of April. If you're watching it some other time, it's a recording of what was live. Our bumper's running. We're streaming to YouTube and all that. We're recording. And Katherine Pasour is going to brief us as our guest tonight. She's standing by in our green room. And our chat room is waiting, hoping I'll shut up. So, count it down. Studio 14. Good evening. Welcome. This is PJNet.TV. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. And I have some new toys. We're starting to build it back better. There you go. All right. Got a new camera up. Not that that matters, but anyway. I'll demonstrate that at some later time. Tonight, you came here, or maybe you didn't come here to see Katherine Pasour, but if you didn't come here, you're going to get blessed because Katherine joins us once a month here on PJNet.TV. And Katherine, it's my understanding that you have, you're exhausted.
Yes, I kept my grandchildren today, and they wear me out. But
Okay.
it's such a blessing. I love it. I'm glad I have the opportunity to do it, but I'm tired at the end of the day.
So, folks, you have nothing to worry about us going on for an hour tonight. It ain't going to happen.
Because you're tired too.
I'm a little tired too, but I've just been kind of beat up. But after that, I read your 3-blog series, and in that, I read and understood in my head anyway that we are to be thankful under all circumstances. 3 weeks ago, your part 1 came out, and my first observation is this: I didn't know Carrie Ten Boom had a sister.
Oh yes, Betsy. And Betsy was such a role model for Corey. And we all think of Corrie Ten Boom as the model of faithfulness, but she had a mentor, which reminds us that it's important for us to be mentors whenever we have the opportunity. And when we are fortunate enough to have a spiritual mentor, that we should really listen to them.
Well,
But
she didn't have a lot of choice, did she?
in that particular case, Corey and Betsy both lived with their father. Neither of them were married, and they lived with their father. And he, of course, was a wonderful model, too. And for those of you not familiar with the story, they lived in lands that were occupied by Nazi Germany. And they were faithful and were hiding Jewish people in their home to protect them. But eventually, they were discovered, and Betsy and Corey both were sent to Ravensbrück concentration camp, which was supposedly a work camp, but they were still, people were killed there. They worked them so hard, and the conditions were terrible. And I did talk about this in my first blog because I wanted to compare something that's really is a more of a tragic situation to the things that I was whining about, because it was spring. Spring had arrived here, and the flowers were beautiful, and the birds were singing, and the sunshine was warmer. But I was whining about mosquitoes and bugs and fleas, because those little things bite on us, bloodsuckers. But when Corey and Betsy were sent to the concentration camp, first thing they noticed was how terrible it smelled, and the conditions were so bad. And the first night when they laid down to go to sleep on those wooden, in the barracks, on those wooden slats practically, they weren't really beds, they were just wooden frames built with straw on them. And something started biting Corey, and she said, "Oh no, oh no, Betsy, there are fleas here. There are fleas." And of course, that's a mosquito, but they are very painful too when they chomp on us. But and Corey said to Betsy, well, how can we live here? How can we survive here? How can we stand these conditions that we're going to be subjected to? And Betsy reminded her of that scripture in Colossians 3:23. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And Corey says, nobody can be thankful for fleas. No one can. But when Betsy pointed out that they had things to be thankful for, that they were there together, they hadn't been separated, and they were allowed to keep their Bible. It wasn't taken away from them when they got there. So Betsy prayed, giving thanks for that, giving thanks for them being together and for being able to keep their Bible. And then she prayed for the fleas. And it wasn't until later that they realized that the fleas actually were a blessing, because Betsy was assigned to the knitting room because she was such a fast knitter. And the fleas were all over the entire barracks. And so the guards would not enter the room because they were afraid they would get fleas. So Betsy was allowed to read her Bible and minister to all of those female prisoners that were there with them. And so Corey later wrote about it. And Betsy died in the camp, but Corey survived and wrote about it. And she was a well-known speaker. She moved to the United States and lived and ministered here and abroad until her death in 1983. So she's a wonderful, wonderful role model for us. But I still struggle to give thanks for fleas and mosquitoes. But the reason I picked this topic was because I struggled with giving thanks in all circumstances. I mean, we've heard that verse and we said, oh yeah, we need to do that. But it really is hard. In the second blog in the series, I wrote about a conflict. We had a situation in our church. This was many years ago, that we ended up being on separate sides of an issue. And you think that churches should not have conflicts, but in situations like that where people feel really strongly about things, they believe in a certain way, and they believe that their stand is the right one, and they stand up for it. And so it was a serious conflict. But the pastor invited my husband and me to come to a meeting, and he sent me an email inviting us to come. And his invitation was worded that they thought it was important for their committee and the pastor and this particular committee to hear our point of view. They wanted to get our viewpoint on certain things that they were planning to do.
You're being
That's
set up.
not the way it turned out. That was a ruse to get us there. And as soon as we came into the meeting, there were, probably 6 or 8 people there. I've probably tried to blot out the memory, but I haven't. It's very vivid. And it was just constant verbal abuse. And we were just basically being blamed for everything that was wrong in the church. And we tried to be polite and respond reasonably, but finally we just had to get up and leave. And we were not thankful for that experience. And of course we prayed about it, and that's a good. We just felt bruised and so hurt. And our church ended up really splitting over it. Many people left. And the thankfulness part of this particular situation is that for those of us who remain, the remnant, we became much more loving to each other and understanding of our imperfections and recognizing the power of forgiveness and love amongst a group of people, that we should focus on Jesus and his teachings. And it was our calling to spread his love and his word. And so we learned a great deal, the entire church, learned a great deal from the experience. So we
What
were,
the blog didn't say whatever became of the pastor.
um, he left.
You now have you had a new one.
Uh, we had a new one, and he worked very hard to bring healing
Hmm.
to the church.
That's
We
got to be
were,
tough on a new pastor coming in.
oh, it
On a,
was. he dread, he dreaded coming. Our reputation had preceded us, so he dreaded it, and he told us, if he'd been there a while, he says, "I was really worried about coming here,"
Mhm.
but he loved us, and we loved him, and um, I'm
Well,
a Methodist, and so one thing about Methodist Church, they move their pastors around
mhm,
fairly often. You seldom have a Methodist pastor that'll stay more than it used to be. They switched them every 2 years, whether you wanted them to or not. But
mhm,
it's gotten to be longer now. But even
mhm.
so, it's still not long. They don't stay 30 or 40 years like some churches will have a pastor from the time they're beginning until they retire. They'll stay the whole time in one church. But that's not the way the Methodists do.
Well, I guess there's a whole nother sermon there. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm being called into an assignment that is unpleasant, that I would prefer not to do. Uh, and there's some characters in the Bible. Uh, Jonah comes to mind. Uh, when,
Oh yeah.
but if the Lord gives you an assignment, there's a reason, and I don't think it's to punish you. you know, if He's got you, but being thankful in unpleasant circumstances is something we have to volitionally do. We can't. It just doesn't come natural, does it?
No, it does not, and we have to pray for it, or pray to see the lesson. You had a good point there that you don't think God does it to punish us. And I agree, but I do think He sometimes does it to teach us an important lesson. Put us in a situation where we will learn from it, and those are valuable, although painful at times, very painful at times. The I think it's really hardest to be thankful when someone is really hurting in the situation. Our children, when they have a terrible situation that we are unable to fix, and we turn to God, and God may or may not choose to answer the prayer as we offer it to Him. And so, in situations like that, I think it's extremely hard to be thankful. We wonder if God hears us, and we know, of course, that He does, but we wonder why He doesn't answer the prayer the way that we want Him to, even though we're very much aware of God has a major plan that may not be the same. He says, "My plans are not your plans." He's God.
I think a lot of the reluctance to be thankful, I should say, uh, comes from our finite vision. We only see and perceive things here, now, and in the present tense,
Hmm.
where God sees beyond the present. And I think if we look back on our lives, I remember a career move. We were considering moving to another town uh, because I had been offered a job there, and my wife was trying to get a transfer, and she couldn't get one, and couldn't get one, and couldn't get one, and she was just in tears because she felt that she had let me down in my career ambitions. And I didn't disagree, but at the same time, I didn't blame her.
Hmm.
Catherine, within a year, that place of business was out of business. So we would
I'm
have
so
been
sorry to
without a
find you.
job,
Uh-huh.
in a place that was new to us. So God sees beyond the present. Maybe God knew, and other doors opened. How many opportunities would I have missed out on would I had gone. Sometimes it's best to stay put, stay home.
So you didn't go?
No, we didn't.
Because sometimes people, one partner will go and the other one will stay, and in hopes that something will open up. But you didn't go at all.
No, it wasn't that good of an opportunity. I was only 20 something at the time. It was.
Uh-huh. But, excuse me, in the third part of the series, I wrote about a situation that was very painful at the time, and really I struggled to give thanks at any part of it, although I realized throughout that God was with me. But my husband had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we had gone to the hospital for a bone scan because his biopsy had shown that the cancer was already extensive in the prostate itself. And so you probably already know this, but if prostate cancer metastasizes, it tends to do so in the bones and in the lymphatic system. So we had gone for a bone scan. And my sister went with me, which was wonderful, and I was very thankful for that. And we were waiting there in the room, and this very outgoing young man came in. He was the technician that was going to do the scan, and he was just real personable and talkative and cheerful, and just the type of personality that really brightens someone's day when they're exposed to a person like that. And he said, "Well, we'll just be back in just a little bit." And so he whisks my husband out of the room, and my sister and I just sat and talked and chatted while we were waiting. And after the scan, he brought him back, and his demeanor was entirely different. He wasn't rude or anything like that, but the sunshine had gone out of this person. He was polite and considerate. He pushed the wheelchair all the way as we were going out to our car, but it was like somebody else had gotten in this person's skin. He just wasn't the same man. And we went down this really long corridor, the hallway, and the side was all windows. So the sunshine was just coming into the windows, but all of a sudden, it just didn't seem so bright anymore. I just had this feeling, this premonition that something is just not right here. And it turned out to be come true that something wasn't right. We learned that the cancer had already spread extensively. And at that point, we were told that the treatment could give quality of life, but that he was terminal. And so I really, during his illness, I really struggled with that. Of course, my husband was a Christian, and so we knew, where his final place would be, where his final home would be. We knew that, but I really, really struggled because he'd never been sick in his life. He was healthy. He was a poster child for an old guy. I mean, he wasn't on medication. He didn't have any chronic diseases. He was just healthy. And so it was just a shock to all of us. But, I wrote in that final blog that I do agree with that scripture, that we do give thanks in all circumstances, but we can give thanks in all circumstances, but it may not be for the circumstances themselves, but we can be very thankful that our God is with us every step of the way, whatever it is. Because it was right in the middle of COVID. We were very isolated. I was his caregiver, and he stayed home the entire time. And so I know that I couldn't, it wasn't perfect, but I could not have gotten through it with even the smallest amount of grace and kindness without God's help. So I knew he was with me. He was with both of us. And so I think I can wholeheartedly agree with that scripture now, even though I still don't like fleas and mosquitoes. But I was able to recognize that. You remember that saying about the seeing the footsteps in the sand, and there would be two sets of prints, and then all of a sudden there were only one, and the man says, "Where were you, God, when I most needed you?" And his answer is, "I was carrying you." So that's absolutely true. He carries us if we need to be carried.
He does, Catherine, and it's still hard for you, isn't it?
Oh, grief is it's always with you. It doesn't go away. I think the edge is dull a little bit,
Yeah.
but it doesn't go away. It feels like, well, when you're married, the vows say the two shall become one,
Yeah.
and so when you're separated again, it feels like a part is missing, like I've lost a limb, an arm or a leg, or part of my heart. I mean, part of me is now gone, and we have a reason to keep going because I don't think our purpose is completed until God decides to take us home.
Right.
So we have a reason to keep going, but everything's different.
Yeah, thinking about the story about the footprints in the sand. Um, God does carry us through those difficult times, even when sometimes we may not realize or appreciate it. But I'll tell you something else. We carry each other.
Yes. Yes,
I,
we
I don't know
do.
how people without a church fellowship and a group of believers, I don't know how they get through these things.
They don't know what they're missing. Yes, it's definitely people carry us with their prayers and their love. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Well, and folks, if you haven't experienced this, you're really missing. You really should be persuaded because it's a love that cannot be found anywhere else. It's not based on you earning it. It's not based on merit. It's based on just we're a group of believers. We're all sinners, but we share in God's love. Um,
And all we have to do is accept it. It's freely
it's free.
given to us. And all we have to do is say, "Yes, Lord, I love you. Come live within me."
But I
And
think we should do ourselves a favor because we all know, as you've experienced and shared, and we've all had experiences of adversity or grief or whatever. Um, if we wait until that time comes to seek that fellowship, well, it's there. But you can't write checks on a bank account unless you make some deposits. And I think it would be better to store up some deposits in that fellowship of love called the church prior to making the withdrawals because you can still go and still receive the help and the companionship, but then you're overdrawn, aren't you? Who wants to go around through life overdrawn? And pay it forward. And Catherine, with whatever time God gives us, I know that you are paying it forward. I put your book up here, Honoring God with My Body. And folks, before we went on the air, I said, Catherine, we just haven't talked enough about that book. It's almost like it, happened and we missed it. Um, no, that wasn't the case.
no, we talked about it on a program maybe a couple of months ago, and that was when I had gotten the cover, the actual with the cover. So I did the cover reveal here for the first time, and it was a very enjoyable evening. But the book releases October the 4th, so we've got a few more months to go. but it is it's a wellness book. You know, God has gifted us with this amazing human body. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, and in His image. And the premise behind the book is that we should honor God by taking care of this amazing vessel that He's given us, our body. So it deals with working to achieve a healthy lifestyle and taking care of your body so that you can serve God. And I think we're all called to serve, and we can do so better if we are as healthy as we are able to be in whatever condition we're in. But no matter how old we are, we can make lifestyle changes that will help us feel better and be able to do more things, have a better quality of life.
When did you start working on this book?
I wrote the Bible study back in 2014. It's been a few years, but I did it as a pilot for several times at my church, and then a couple of times in the community, and made some changes in it based on some feedback I got from them. And then I revised it once it got accepted for publication. Then I had to do a lot of editing. So birthing a book is a long process.
Whoa!
Whoa!
I'm sorry.
Lily.
I mean, yeah. Well, I meant that, folks. That was from the Easter, the third part 3 of her book. Oh, something else that I was so wrapped up in your story, I forgot the work I'm doing here. KatherinePasour.com. All 3 of those blogs, as well as all of your blogs, can be found there. And if you would go to Katherine, it's on your screen. So you pause the video if you're watching this later to write it down if you must, and enter it into your browser till you get it right. And when you get there, subscribe and do all those nice things and connect. Katherine, you have something driving you. You are very, very active at an age when most people are getting less active. You seem to be getting more. Too many episodes of Jack LaLanne or something?
I grew up on a farm, and so I've always been active. But in my early part of my career, I was a physical education teacher. And so I was working with children then and trying to help them have a physically active lifestyle and to have fun while they were doing it. I think exercise should be fun. It shouldn't be torture. It should be fun. And so I used to be a runner years ago, but now I walk. But on the days I go to my nature trail, I walk 3 miles, and it's up and down hills. And of course, on the farm, I have to lug around bales of hay and 50-pound sacks of feed. So that gives me a little workout. And I've taught wellness classes.
Folks, those of you who've been here long enough, you wore out a wheelbarrow.
I did. Well, I wore it out, and then I killed it by dropping a bale of hay on it, breaking the handle.
Is it still in service as a planter or something?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it'll make it as that or not. I haven't tossed it yet, just in case I might need it. But it's hard to operate a wheelbarrow with just one handle. But my daughter gave me a wheelbarrow for my birthday, I think. I can't remember exactly when I got it, but
those things are expensive now. You can spend $100 on a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, it was a perfect gift. I like practical gifts, but it is important to be active. So many advantages. It helps us can help prevent chronic diseases or help us manage chronic diseases. It helps us maintain a healthy weight. Helps to prevent osteoporosis. There's just so many advantages to having a healthy lifestyle. Great stress reliever. I get my best thinking in when I'm walking.
Well, rigorous activities can also be good anger management.
That is true too.
I'm telling you, it's a fact. It's you're still farming, aren't you?
Well, we do hay because these hungry horses think they have to eat. So we do hay. Haven't had a garden since my husband got sick. We used to have a big garden, but haven't done that. Years ago, I grew up on a tobacco farm, and that was work.
Yeah,
And then we did produce, and that was even more work. So, but
yeah. There's always something. So you don't have chickens or anything? You don't do eggs?
no,
My wife's tinkering with the idea of getting a couple of chickens, to have eggs. And if eggs keep going up, you know, it's like three
well,
dollars a
this
dozen.
winter,
Right?
you have to feed them. You have to feed those chickens. You got
Yeah.
varmints around. You got
Well,
coyotes
that's
around.
that's the problem. I told her. I said you're just baiting up the varmints. We don't really have coyotes in this area. Well, we do, but I mean not around here. Not that I know of, but just the
You might find
possums,
out.
the what dogs and
Yeah, dogs, foxes. I
foxes.
don't know what kind of wildlife you have, but
I tell you, I found just the other day we got armadillo. That's for sure. You know how I know?
I don't know what do they eat.
Well, I don't know. Grassroots. That is Catherine. That is a digging machine. It is a digging machine. I mean,
Oh, you just
they.
planted your grass, didn't you?
Well,
Last
we
fall.
seeded some last year, and it's actually growing. The problem is we killed the weeds. We had somebody come in with some special herbicide, that what killed the weeds. The problem is now there's a bunch of dirt out there, but you can at least see the grass that is there. But anyway, it's an ongoing struggle. But Catherine, I admire your active lifestyle, and I think that it has paid off for you. It's paying dividends, and I'll I'll use Catherine as an example. I could use myself as one if I were a little older. I'm not that old, but the less you do,
What are you saying?
the less you do, the less you can do. The
Yes,
more you do, the more you can do. And if you're
absolutely.
thinking, well, it's too late. No, it's not. It's never too late to make a good decision. And and there are good times ahead, but if you just allow yourself to decay and atrophy, you're right. Yeah, I can't do that. Well, well, what can you do? Get out and move around a little bit. So,
Yeah, we can all do a little bit more than what we're doing.
well, and just
Just add
do
on a little bit.
anything, and then tomorrow add a little bit more to it.
Right.
You know, I'm running 3.2 miles now, 4 times a week, and I add .05 every day when I run.
Point
So,
zero. Okay.
right, that's 1/20th. After 20 days, you've added another mile
Mm-hmm.
to your run. I say run; it's a jog, folks. A 15.5 minute pace, if you can imagine. It's barely running, barely jogging, but it's okay. So it takes me
Yes.
about 45, 50 minutes to do that, and it feels good. All right, well, Catherine, you've blessed us, and thank you for that series. The three. So you knew what you were going to do for the next 3 blogs 3 weeks ago. Now you got to come up with something.
That's right. I'm thinking. I got several ideas started, but I'm not sure which one I'll go with this coming
Hmm.
week. But
It's almost like having a break when you do a 3-part series because that burden of inspiration,
hmm
is kind of lifted. It's like, in fact, you probably was going to do it in 1 week. Said, no, I'll divide this up into 3, and that way I don't have to think of anything for 2 weeks.
that's right.
Catherine, it's wonderful to visit with you. Thanks so much for sharing and being such a faithful member of the PJNet family. It's always good to have you, and we enjoy seeing you in our chat room as well.
It's always good to be here. Thank you,
All right.
Coach.
Bless your heart. Katherine Pasour. Hey, we are bringing more and more cameras online. That's the good news. The bad news is one of the cameras that we were going to bring online today, in fact, well, the darn thing doesn't work. That's right. In fact, it was kind of working in many ways until I called tech support and they had me do a reset. Press a series of buttons and now it doesn't work at all. So I'm not having a good day. you know. But anyway, we'll get through it. I'll wind up sending it back, I'm sure. Yeah, bummer. But at least I've got it. I should be thankful, because if you would have told me 6 months ago that we would have two new cameras, not only just two new cameras, two pan tilt zoom cameras. You know what I mean by pan tilt zoom? You know, I can press buttons and the camera rotates around. Oh yeah. And they're 4K. Oh my gosh. All right, enough of that. Well, I can deal with that tomorrow, because I'm off tomorrow. The reason I'm off tomorrow is on Friday night we do something, PJ Net, we do something special. And it doesn't involve me. So you can put the word out. Hey, Coach won't be there. I'll be here, but not on camera. Steve Hazards takes the helm on Friday nights, and about 9 p.m. Eastern, we just kind of have a little party, get together, play some tunes, have some good time, let our hair down. But then at 10 o'clock, he puts on his weekly special called My Perspective and Comments. And folks, it's really good, and it's really interesting to watch people sign in to watch that. And he'll review the events of the week, and you'll hear it through the lens of Scripture being fulfilled. And he doesn't hold back. He ends up with a little short Bible study called A Higher Look. And I always enjoy that. Well, Steve, thank you for doing that and giving me a break. It's good, and giving everybody else a break from me. So that will wrap it up as far as I am concerned for this week. Oh, by the way, we did have a guest scheduled tonight for the 9:30 segment. But this afternoon, and it was a first-time guest. I was really looking forward to it, but he emailed and said a family emergency required him to be gone. So we'll just try to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I let him know that we'll keep the light on for him as soon as the storm passes on his end, and we'll just do it then. Two questions to ask yourself. What is the boldest thing, the boldest single one thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And regardless of what that was, the next question is, how long ago was that? The challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.